So in no particular order, let's have a look at some of the challenges that a solopreneur-based business would actually face. The first one we've already touched on before, which is overwhelm and burnout. So I'm going to move swiftly along because it will become very evident why overwhelm and burnout happens as we go through the list. The next several points, actually, I'm going to clump together because they're all interrelated with each other, and that's lack of funding, poor cash flow, and underpricing. We have lack of funding, and because we have a lack of funding, we can't really get investment until we prove that the business is going to work, or even get a business loan until we have a really solid business model. And it becomes quite challenging to actually raise funds at the very early stages of a business. That then results in the lack of cash flow as well, because you are investing a lot of your time and energy to develop the product or service, as well as making sure that the business is set up correctly. But the third one, which is underpricing that I've just spoken about, is actually not really related as a result of those two, but actually it's a fundamental thing, because the mindset of the solopreneur at the beginning typically, and it's not for everyone, but typically at the very beginning, they cannot justify asking a much higher price than other existing businesses out there that seem to have a lot more experience and seem to have been in the business for a long time. And then we come in as solopreneurs and we say, I really don't want to ask for too much money because I need as much money. And if I charge more, then I'm going to get rid of more people and not enough people are going to come. And it's a vicious cycle that just keeps going on. And then we end up really underpricing. And that damages us both in the short term, medium term, and potentially the long term as well, if the business really fails to start breaking out of those traps and challenges and not grow. So the next one is really having an ad hoc approach to everything and not really having any systems to speak of or processes. And that's because we as business owners typically are visionaries, where we've come up with a lot of great ideas that we're going to do, but we are running around out of desperation sometimes. And what we actually end up doing is making ad hoc decisions, grabbing ideas from here and there and whatever the sort of the grapevine has actually told you. And you've heard that Facebook ads are great, and you've heard that this, and you try this and you try that, and there's no consistency or any kind of real system behind what you're actually trying to do. Those systems are not there. So the things that actually work randomly are not recorded so that you can't stay consistent. And the things that actually don't work are also not recorded, and there's no real plan about going about trying to solve all of these things. So lack of systems to speak of, as well as really ad hoc planning and execution. That's another one of the typical challenges that you'll get. Not having a solid vision or a strategy. Even though we're visionaries, we might not still have a look sort of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line and say, where is this business actually heading? And what kind of strategy are we going to put in place to make everything coherent so that we're not ad hoc planning or executing? And what are the things that we really need to focus on to navigate our way through the obstacles that we might sort of encounter on the way? And how do we sort of maintain that focus to get to our destination? And that strategy is usually not there at the beginning of a business journey, especially at a solopreneur, because simply speaking, that actually is one of the fundamental roles of you as a business owner, or you as a CEO of your own business. But we don't have the time to do all of that, because we've got to develop the products or services. We've got to deliver them. We've got to go and find clients and market to them and sell to them. We've got to do our accounts, if we get time to do that. And we've got to do this and that and the other. And there's a whole bunch of things that we need to do. And that's why we get caught up in just actually executing the tactical stuff that needs to happen on a day-to-day. And we don't really sit there working on the business. So lack of having a solid vision or strategy is the next one. Let's have a look at the next one after that. Because we don't actually have a solid strategy or a vision, we don't also necessarily identify a unique value proposition at this stage. And that is actually quite fundamental at the early stages, to really separate yourself from the competition, to say, here is my competitive advantage and this is what's going to make me different, which will allow you to price higher. A lack of unique value proposition, as well as the lack of strategy, as well as the lack of planning, as well as the lack of systems. So we've got a pattern here which is beginning to form, and this results in a lot of mindset issues in terms of, am I able to do this? This is way too much for me. I cannot do this. Who am I? Look at the other businesses. Look how they're performing. And then we begin to doubt ourselves, and then we start running into a whole bunch of emotional roller coaster, and that's not how you should be running a business. You should be running a business, discipline and patience, rather than sort of fear and greed and emotions and mindset and sort of being really afraid that the business is going to collapse. So these are the sort of the turmoils, and no wonder when you look at all of this, that's why we get overwhelmed at that stage, and that's why we end up potentially burning ourselves out. So those are some of the key challenges. There are other ones like delegating, because it doesn't really apply as much at that stage because the person or the solopreneur is doing a lot of the work themselves, but actually they should be beginning to delegate out, even if they are outsourcing to virtual assistants or outsourcing certain parts of the marketing process. There are elements there that should be delegated out if they are tedious and low value. And then also one of the key challenges is as you begin to expand and scale, hiring people becomes a challenge, and hiring processes, and actually resistance to hiring first. And then when you actually get to hiring, you end up hiring the wrong people because you have the wrong systems or processes. So a whole bunch of challenges there. Let's have a look at what kind of challenges a typical micro-sized business has. Typically, you will struggle to find time. That's one of the biggest challenges, because the CEO of your business, you, are typically still doing a lot of stuff you shouldn't be doing. And as the business is growing and as it's scaling, and as you're having even now a team that you should be focusing on and trying to get them to do stuff, you are struggling to try and get them to do stuff the way that you want it done, because typically there are no systems and processes inside the business. Communication of your actual strategy is quite difficult, because first, as a solopreneur, coming up with a strategy is one of the challenges. But now as a micro-sized business, it's not just sufficient enough just for you to have the strategy in your head. You've got a team now, you've got people inside your business, and they need to be aware of what your strategy is. They need to have that communicated. They need to align with that so that everyone is really working on a coherent plan to grow and scale your business. Delegating was a big challenge of the solopreneur sized business, but now you're beginning to have people and you're saying, right, I'm actually good at delegating. You know, I can tell them what to do, but 9 times out of 10, you're not delegating authority. You're not delegating accountability. You're not giving ownership to people to say, right, you own this. This is yours. This is your baby. Go away and sort of get it done based on the systems, the SOPs, the processes that we've got, the strategy that we've communicated, and let's all work together within a work culture that you have built. Now, what? Work culture? What? No, it's just 3 people. We just do a Zoom call. No. This is where you begin to start really beginning to work on your environment, the culture. How is the team going to function together? You know, how are you going to actually start looking at competency gaps? Where do you need to have those gaps filled? Do you need to potentially provide training for people? How are you going to have your team communicating with each other? What tools are you going to start using? So these are big challenges where you begin to say, right, the working environment as a culture, as a team, the systems and the processes, the delegation of authority, the actual communication of your vision and strategy, a lot of these become big challenges inside your business.
Challenge accepted.
Let's have a look now at some of the challenges and what we might get in terms of having a small size business. If you've been listening to what I've been saying, it's going to become apparent that you are now hiring a lot of people and you are now bringing in more people. You're expanding your team, you're expanding your market, you're expanding your everything inside your business. And one of the biggest things that small business owners actually struggle as they're growing this part of the business, and it really catches them off guard. Listen carefully. It's actually your profitability. Profitability becomes a huge challenge because you're beginning to invest in growing your business. You're beginning to hire people. You're beginning to really start finding now no longer just VAs or assistants. You're beginning to find the best of the best so that they can actually really grow your business. And that comes at a price. So you're beginning to pay these people more. You're beginning to advertise more. Your budgets are all going to grow a lot bigger. You might be making more turnover and your turnover is increasing. And I hear this a lot where people and business owners say, look, I've just recorded my largest quarter in turnover. However, I'm still losing money. And I wasn't losing money when I was making less money. So what gives? And this is a real challenge. This is why I also mentioned one of the things that becomes really important is having a finance person in-house so that you can really stay on top of your budget. Because if you don't do that, it's fine to invest money and it's fine to cut your bottom line a little bit as long as you know that the return on investment that you're putting in is going to come back and you can survive from a cash flow perspective to be able to live that and sort of survive that so that you can see the other side of it. So that becomes a really crucial challenge and one that really should not be underestimated. The second most crucial challenge is a micromanaging owner struggling to let go. Is that you? Maybe. I've seen it time and time again. I've been there. I've fallen for the same trap because it's your baby. You've been growing this business for maybe potentially a few years now, and you've been really having sleepless nights and hours of like pain and misery and glory and all of that good stuff and emotions. And now you're bringing in people who want to have a budget and want to have decision making so that they can actually grow their teams as well. And they're saying, hey, you give me decision-making authority and give me a budget and I'll see you next quarter and I'll tell you, let you know how it goes. And you would say, what? It's okay. You're probably going to see them before that if you're doing your job well, but that's what it kind of comes down to is they're saying, right, give me a playing field here, give me a budget, give me time, give me my team, and I will go and find my team. I'm going to hire people that you might not even interview, where you've been making sure that you're interviewing all of these people up until now and making sure that they're the right fit. The trick here is to make sure that you've got the right systems and processes in place. You've got and really sort of worked with your HR people to actually say, this is our working culture. This is what we stand for. This is not what we stand for. And still, even then, letting go is really hard, and being able to sort of give that power away to other people whilst you get less of it is actually quite a challenge, and it's quite a daunting challenge, and not a lot of people actually get through it. And that's why still businesses will either stay as micro businesses or smaller and not see themselves grow to the next level, or they just grow to that next level and end up not making enough profit and not giving enough control, and people start leaving because they start frustrated, and profit just keeps going down, and it will bring the business to ruin, unfortunately. And that's not what I want for you as you are growing your business. So really make sure that all your ducks are in order before you even start hiring people. Make sure that you've got the right systems and processes in place. Make sure that you know how you're going to start delegating authority, who's going to be responsible for stuff, who's going to be accountable. It's really important to dig down and uncover what your main obstacle is and what's really holding you back, because no matter what shortcuts that you try and take, it's not going to fix the main cause problem. So fix that first, and then we can start layering on top so that then we can grow the business to the next level. I'll see you next time.